Next, on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
For me to recover from workaholism, I had to really focus on balancing my life in all areas. And life is more than work. And that requires saying no to some people. And it just does. You have to be okay with disappointing people and saying no. And that's a big step for some folks. But you cannot have your whole world about work because the other parts will tell on you. They will crumble. And so you either hear stories of people who've lost relationships or lost their health or lost their families due to workaholism and working too much. And so that whole thinking of boundaries, sleep is a piece of it, but you've got to kind of get yourself in balance and like what really matters to you and how many hours do we all have in a day?
Well, I'm going to go then. And I don't need any of this. I don't need this stuff. And I don't need you. I don't need anything except this ashtray and this paddle game, the ashtray and the paddle game. And that's all I need. And this remote control, the ashtray, the paddle game, and the remote control. And that's all I need. And these matches, the ashtray, these matches, and the remote control and the paddle ball. I don't need one other thing, not one, except the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by Turnkey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Nice Guy community. Today, Renee Schulte, she has over 20 years of experience as a therapist, a policymaker, and a consultant. As a consultant, she's worked with multiple states creating strategic plans, legislation, and regulations. Now, let's talk about what she actually does. Let's talk about sleep, mental health, burnout, and how an experience in a hospital inspired Renee to take a deeper dive into making some habit changes to right-side her self-care. Her story and her business will inspire you to take action for yourself. I'm excited to have her here on the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Hey, I'm happy to have you here. And I understand that business is booming for you. And I respect and appreciate the fact that we have someone that has reached a extremely high level of success with their own business. And obviously somebody that has 20 years of experience should be successful in their own right. And you have been. So appreciate you being here and spending some time with us. I want to spend a first moment here talking about sleeping your way to the top. Now, of course, when I say that, I mean actually connecting better sleep with better success in your business life and in your personal life. So can we start there? Sleeping, yes. Can that really make a big difference? I guess it could.
I'm so grateful for that question. So yes, when I, back in the day, I was a workaholic, and as a state legislator, I just worked my way, what I thought was going to be to the top. And instead I ended up on a 2-week trip to the hospital with a severe lung infection and could not for the life of me figure out how in the world did I end up there. And looking backwards, I realized I gave up on my self-care routine. And a huge piece of that for me was sleep. And by letting my body kind of go and not really protect itself, illness took over. And then I had to start all over again. And so this climb up the mountain this time around has been a very different perspective because I learned quite a few things while laying in the hospital so many years ago.
All right. And so this is something that might be foreign to those in our community. You know, the difference between there's a big leap between not getting enough sleep and actually landing in the hospital. So can you talk about the process Absolutely. By which that actually happened? Because, you know, people don't realize they could be closer to that situation than they actually realize.
Yeah. So research actually shows that if you're a person that gets on average less than 7 hours of sleep a night, you are 3 times more likely to get sick. And that's pretty consistent research across lots of different studies. And so just the fact that you get less than 7 hours every night makes you 3 times more likely to catch anything. That can be the cold, that could be the flu, or that could be something really important. But the piece that people don't understand about sleep is the restorative nature of sleep that prevents you from getting ill. So there's an immune system in your body that needs sleep to repair itself each night. And while we're thinking we can burn the candle at both ends as a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, and we think we can just go to get to the top, our bodies sometimes give out on us. And in my case, that's exactly what happened. I ended up with an autoimmune disease. I ended up with my immune suppressed due to some medications to try to correct that autoimmune disease. And the next thing you know, I'm laid out flat in the hospital for several weeks with a really big infection that took a very long time to recover from. And so I didn't see it coming because I thought I was at the top of the world. I was on my game. I was going to run for Congress. All these things were going my way. And my body just said, nope, it is time to rest. And so there you go. And without even what I thought, no warning, there I ended up in the hospital.
So talk to me about some of the habits that somebody could actually put into play now so that something like that doesn't happen to them, down the road, even a short run down the road.
You bet. So there's a few things that we talk about when we talk about self-care. And I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo self-care that they think it's like bubble baths and, drinking a glass of wine, but that's really not what we're talking about. When I talk about self-care, we talk about it with the ABCs of self-care. And the A is really about activities. And so that's including relaxation, but also movement and being outdoors, all of which can boost your immunity. And the B is where the sleep comes in, and that's the boundaries. And we don't really think about boundaries in a way to think about sleep, but an action step that most people can do in boundaries is thinking about your sleep. It's also thinking about your nutrition. And then it is really saying no to some things. And then the C is connections, making sure we're connected to our family and friends and to that higher power, whatever it is that we believe in, and then seeking help when we need it.
All right, so we've gone through the ABCs. So maybe share a habit that you were able to put into play fairly easily without a lot of side effects when it came to, my gosh, you realize you have to put some me time into your schedule. You have to lay off the workaholism just to a certain degree so that you can actually start to heal and repair. But give me some easy steps that somebody could take that might be experiencing that workaholic status that they're in right now, but just can't seem to break out of that process.
Yep. It really started for me setting boundaries. And so I actually have a bedtime. And I know that'll sound so crazy to people that are workaholics and we like to go, go, go. But I have a bedtime and I haven't woken up to an alarm clock now for about 5 years because my body knows when it needs to go to bed and it knows when it wakes up. And I'm one of these people that figured out a long time ago that whatever time I go to bed, I was still waking up at the exact same time the next morning, whether I got 8 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep. And that's kind of a big bummer because if I stay up late, I'm still getting up at the crack of dawn because my body says it's time to get up. And so for me, setting a boundary of a bedtime had to be part of the conversation. And my husband understands now that that's what has to happen. I have to be able to go to sleep. And so it's as easy as starting with that routine and saying, okay, I'm going to be in bed by this time. And that can be step one.
So what are some of the things that you teach entrepreneurs? I mean, you could say that until you're blue in the face and somebody would say, yeah, but I need to work, or yeah, but I need to, my team needs me, or what do I say to somebody that's trying to send me an email that I need to be able to respond to, immediately? What are the levels of service that you offer that can help somebody shake off some of these bad habits?
That's a great question. So I am a huge Michael Hyatt fan. I don't know if you're aware of Michael Hyatt.
Sure.
He's a former CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing and has his own company now. And I really believe in his entire free to focus system. And so for me to recover from workaholism, I had to really focus on balancing my life in all areas. And life is more than work. And that requires saying no to some people. And it just does. You have to be okay with disappointing people and saying no. And that's a big step for some folks, but you cannot have your whole world about work because the other parts will tell on you. They will crumble. And so you either hear stories of people who've lost relationships or lost their health or lost their families due to workaholism and working too much. And so that whole thinking of boundaries, sleep is a piece of it, but you've got to kind of get yourself in balance on like what really matters to you and how many hours do we all have in a day? Because the thing we can tell ourselves that's a big lie is that somehow we're busier than everybody else. But the truth is we all have that same 24 hours and some of us sleep. So it's a choice that's making that's different.
So sleep is just one of probably many things that will help improve someone's health that can add to their self-care. What are some of the other components of the cycle of positive healthcare that you might be able to share with our community? Yeah.
So making sure that we have regular movement and getting outdoors even being outside just a little bit each day also improves your immunity and improves your health. And so if it's a situation where you have trouble getting up in the morning, there's all kinds of research out there showing that just getting outside in the bright sunlight helps you wake up. It resets that circadian rhythm to help you wake up in the morning and help you sleep at night. Lots of research on just being outside. It helps you get grounded, helps you become now in the here and now and not dwelling on the past, which can become more like depression, or really thinking about and anticipating and worrying about the future that can become anxiety. You can really land in the moment just by going outside and grounding yourself and being on the earth, put your feet on the ground, can help you just feel today more power for the choices that you're making.
I remember when I would say that anxiety was at its highest point for me. My daughter looked at my schedule because she said, "Let's get in front of your computer so we can figure out where your you time is happening." And she looked at my schedule and she said, "Dad, you have no you time. You physically do not schedule a spot on your schedule for you." And so what I instituted from that day was every day, whether it was 15 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes, I put on my schedule an appointment for me. And it was just a matter of going outside or reading a book or taking a nap. And that brings me to another point, is just taking the nap. I put an app on my phone, PZIZZ, Pizzizz or Pizzazz, I don't know how to say it, but whatever the app, PZIZZ, if you're in my community and you want to go to that app, it's a great one. But just taking a nap. And for me, I did not need to take a 2-hour nap. I mean, literally a 15-minute power nap was enough just to kind of get my brain activity in a different position. So what's your thought about nap taking or making time for yourself in your schedule? Are these things, I mean, there's no harm in coming from either one of those things, but are those things that are positive habits that you think that you would encourage people as a part of any program that you would be offering?
Yeah, that's really important. So Michael Hyatt is a huge nap taker. He talks about after every lunch in his afternoon, he has about, I don't know if it's 15 or 30 minutes, but he's a big nap guy. I'm jealous of all of you because I really wish I could nap. I used to be really good at it, not so great at it anymore. And now I know that I'm not feeling well if I fall asleep during the day. So for me, that's not a choice. But for those that are on that afternoon siesta, that's where that comes from in the Latin culture, is taking that afternoon break and getting yourself reset for the afternoon. Because if you do that, according to research, if you're a person that can nap, when you wake up just as refreshed as you would have first thing in the morning. And so you kind of have then 2 peak periods of your day where you're refreshed and really creative first thing in the morning, and then again after your little nap or siesta. And so if you can even build in a few minutes of that at work. The other thing is, maybe you're not a napper, but one of the things I've instituted for myself is a time of meditation. And I know meditation may sound kind of woo-woo to some folks, but for me, it's more of taking deep breaths and breathing and, again, recentering in the now, not worrying about yesterday and not being concerned about tomorrow, but really focused on today and like whatever I have on my agenda. And if I can take even just 10 or 15 minutes in the afternoon to reset and get my heart rate back under control and just less stress in my body, I can tell a big difference. That's not one that you're going to feel overnight, but over time, you'll start to see that you're a little more patient, have a little more ability to put up with all the frustrations in life if you instill something like that in your life.
So for those that are listening and you're in our community, I highly encourage you to click the link in the show notes, head over to reneeschulte.org, and you can scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page and you can stay in touch with Renee and the programs that she has going on. Just to give you a little idea, she has over 20 years of experience working in mental health as a licensed therapist, as a state legislator, and as a consultant. So I want to talk about that for a quick second, because we're talking a lot to those in our community, which obviously, if you're in our community, you know who you are. You're an entrepreneur, you're a business leader, you're an owner that's out there running your business. But you work also, Renee, in a much higher level, not meaning that you work with people that are better than entrepreneurs, but you work at a level where you're actually putting in policies and programs. So maybe can you spend just a moment talking about your work as a policy maker, or in help maybe, massaging the policies to fit prioritizing health and pursuing excellence and rebuilding resilience in the community?
You bet. And so policies are not just at that high level. Sometimes we think it's only at the congressional level for national policy, or at a state level, maybe for like legislation. But you have policies in your workplace, you have policies in your own family. I mean, we don't think about it that way, but like there's probably a time of day you've decided that you eat dinner, and that's sort of a policy. Or at the time you go to bed, you've set yourself a policy, and you have time that, whatever you do for discipline for your kids, you kind of have a policy. And so policies are across the board. They're those rules that we live by. And so what I do is help people figure out, is there a way to do that at a healthier perspective, taking that self-care lens to look at policies. And that really comes down to three pieces. There really is taking care of yourself in that self-care way that we're talking about today. But there's also looking at partnerships and coalitions, like who needs to be at the table to make those policies better. And then really thinking about how do we strategize this to actually move it forward in a way that is pursuing excellence. And it's not just a one-sided policy. I know that a lot of people think about policies or laws, and you see those terrible policies or laws passed in the dead of night that nobody agrees to and everybody fights again about the next morning. That's not the kind of stuff we're working toward. What we're trying to do is try to help people do this from a healthier perspective and get everybody's input up front so that when it actually is implemented, it works for people. So in your workplace, thinking about things like, do you have a culture that allows a siesta or a break in the afternoon? Do you have a culture that allows people to take a walk over the lunch hour or encourages it? Do you do things like a 5K walk where you encourage your employees to participate and to get people active and to get people outside and to get people doing things that are healthy for them? Or is your policy to text people at every moment of the day and expect them to text you back, including evenings and weekends? That's not a healthy policy, and that's one you can change. So what we do is try to help people see what those things are in their lives that people often assume are just a given and an absolute. Most of the time, those policies can be changed and can be changed for the better.
So advance your programs, let's say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from where we are right now. What's your hope for what you do?
Well, man, what I hope to do is to be able to teach people this policymaking process in order to change the way we do business in that space and looking at things from a healthy perspective. And when we make rules or things that laws and things that we all have to live by, are we doing that from a place of health? Are we doing that from a place of positivity, of looking at how it impacts the people that have to implement it and that live with it on the ground? And the more people I can teach doing that, the more policies we can change nationwide. And that makes me really excited to get up every morning.
Awesome. That sounds like that's an exciting world to live in. And Renee, I so appreciate you sharing your message with our community today. What would be the best way for people to reach out to you? Would it be through your website?
Yep. If they reach out through my website, they would be automatically attached to our newsletter, and then they can connect with me directly there with my email that's typically right attached to that.
Great. So just so everybody knows, it's reneeschulte.org. The spelling and all the links and everything will be directly there in the show notes. Just click on the show notes, whatever podcast player that you're listening on, it'll be right there. Scroll down to the bottom of that homepage and you'll see subscribe to the Mental Health Minute. Renee, thank you for being on the show and sharing your message with our community today.
Thank you, Doug.
Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the power of a good 8 hours of sleep. I try to get 8 to 9 hours every night, and I love it. I do wake up refreshed and ready to go. And I can't tell you the last time, with the exception of a trip that I made overseas, that I had to set my alarm to get up early. And that was all for good stuff. So never underestimate the power of a good night's sleep. Special thanks to Renee Schulte. All of her information, including access to her website and her subscription, are right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Seriously, it'll only hurt for a minute or two, 10 tops.